Oh, it's going. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is Krishna Priya, and this is a Human Colony Hucolo Saturday webinar. I see I can't even say it right. I'm not even used to saying the name now. Anyway, welcome everyone. Okay. Today, see now, I didn't catch it. Hi, everyone. There we go. Oh, anyway. So welcome. We're going to do an open channeling today. So if anyone has any questions, either here in the room or in the YouTube chat, we'll take them. We'll start off with some blessings. Why don't we have Angie and her announcements, and then we'll do blessings with Angie and Wendy. And if anyone else wants to do a blessing, absolutely no problem. You're absolutely welcome. So,
hi, everybody. Thank you very much. We have our part 2 of consciousness, channeling and consciousness today, this afternoon, 1:30 to 5:30. And if you are interested in that, you can email classes@hucolo.org. Again, Jim will be teaching that class, and 1:30 to 5:30-ish today. Could be going longer. We're not 100% sure, but all of our classes always run over. Classes@hucolo.org. That's today. We do have the dates scheduled for the Tarot Mastery class. It's going to be Saturday and Sunday of January, the 14th and the 15th. That is using tarot to connect to your higher selves, different beings, helping you focusing in on that. And that is $150. Classes@hucolo.org. I can get some information to you on how to register for that class.
Okay, perfect. All right. Do you want to start with that? Just typing into the YouTube chat. Okay, just invite anyone who wants to ask any questions. Okay, so we'll start. Hi, Salesh, welcome back. We'll start with your blessing, Ange.
Thanks. Tuuna iataka shi anu uishia. Unua itaka ana iataku usha ara I kama oat. Itakara utusununu utukorara.
Go ahead, Wendy, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Atatukuyani arata iranoro dianarata honara kainarata horono atahinara kairaton yarakairana yuron karanara icho apa veneriki aranyur koronir tuanara kai. It's a blessing from the ancient ones, the elders, just connecting in and reminding you of the vibration of sound and singing. Thank you.
Perfect, beautiful. Okay, so today we're doing open channeling, and right before we went live, Wendy was asking about some things that went on in her meditation. Celeste, are you going to be walking the whole time?
No, actually, I'm in hospital right now. Just been called because my uncle is on his last legs, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness!
And,
should we do a prayer?
my sister asked me if I told her there's an open channeling going on. So she says, "Can you ask them there any messages from his higher self for her and the family?" So I had to rush out where I can get some decent connection.
Did you want to be there? Did you want to be with her when we answer the question, or?
You can answer the question, and then later on, when we come downstairs for a break, she'll be able to listen to it on YouTube.
Okay, sure. So give her name. What's her name?
Amita, Amita.
And what is her? It's her husband.
Oh, it's my uncle, her father. She's been looking after him for the last 7-8 years now. His name is Ramesh. Ramesh.
Okay, Rameshji. Okay, and you said he has COVID? Is that what you just said?
No, he's on his last breaths now. Not COVID, just at 91 he fell down, broke his hip and everything. They can't operate on him, and his breathing has slowed down. So Generally, he's been put in a side room, palliative care, really, more than anything else.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, just let me, I'll just seek. Is he conscious or he's unconscious now?
He's breathing on oxygen, unconscious, opens his eyes every once in a while and then closes them, but he's not there at the moment.
Okay. All right. Okay, just give me a moment here.
There at the moment.
All right, is someone there doing the Mahamrityunjaya with him? Do you know, Salesh?
He's on mute.
Sorry, is someone doing what? Sorry?
Mahamrityunjaya mantra with him? Om
Um,
Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam
oh yes, yeah. In fact, his favorite ever since he was young was the Gayatri mantra. So we reciting it
doing
for him
Gayatri with
always.
him? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because what I picked up was I picked up mantra. I didn't know what mantra was being done, but that he is he's hearing and he's chanting in his own mind because he's preparing. He wants his last thought to be of God.
Yes, Shiva has always been his favorite aspect.
So he's wanting his last thought to be of God, and he's in his mind. He's
Mhm.
has his own mantra going, and he's connecting in that way. That's what I hear, and he's not afraid at all. He's really quite at peace. Though there's the moments of where he drifts off and then he comes back, and that's a little bit jarring. Like, am I still here? Am I okay? And then he kind of says, he sort of starts to feel into his body. He feels uh, the failings of his body. So that's a little bit scary for him in this, because he doesn't want to have pain, but he's not scared of what's happening to him. Does that make sense? He doesn't want to be in discomfort, but he's at the same time peaceful. So it's just when he looks around and he sees people, he sees the concerned faces looking at him, and that's for him it's jarring, I would say. But he's really at peace, and he'll go when he's really ready. So the other thing I'm just picking up, that his family members on the other side are gathering, and he is aware.
I did speak to him yesterday and today that my father and our
I
three
said I was going to have a brother. I have a brother there.
Yep.
I also have a childhood friend that is there, and I believe there's a woman there as well, that are waiting.
His two daughters passed away recently as well.
So his family is there waiting for him. And has he said that, or has he said anything about family members coming or not? Or he's not talking at all?
No, he's not talking at all. It's something that I'm sensing, and so is my sister, because my sister is pretty clairvoyant, but she hasn't. She doesn't want to go into it at the moment
Yeah.
because she's looking after her mom and dad for 24 hours a day for the last 8-9 years. So she hasn't gone into the channeling or anything.
Yeah.
So
the other thing, just something with his toes. I keep seeing his toes. Is people like holding his feet, like toes? That's what I have. His feet.
that must be from the other side of the veil then, because us two are the only ones here.
Yeah, okay. I just had something with his toes, so just make sure his feet aren't cold. But I just
Okay.
have his toes. That's
Okay.
it. Because I keep
Okay.
seeing his toes. I don't know why.
I'll go. Okay, I'll go inside now then and see how he's doing. And I really would love to appreciate to see what the other channels have to say regarding messages from his higher self for the family,
Yeah.
if any.
Do you have anything to say, Wendy, or add?
Just that it's such a beautiful process, and that if you, when you're around him, if you can just be in the memory of the good times and love, so that that energy surrounds him, not in the fear of passing. So, you know, if maybe if you've got other family or whatever, you can talk about, you know, joyous times and things you were doing together, because there's no time, and it'll put him back into those moments. And so then when it's his time for passing, it'll just be a beautiful blessing. And then give him permission. Sometimes they just want our permission, that it's okay to go, and, you know, bless them on their journey. And, you know, you'll see them in the next life, you know, that type of a thing. And it'll be very beautiful and calming for them.
In fact, just to be honest with you, permission has been given by the family, myself, and especially my cousin sister. And he himself said that he wants his body to be donated to science and no funeral, and to hold an absolute massive party for him next week
Oh,
or the week
beautiful.
after, right? So there's no mornings or anything. He just wants us to celebrate effectively. That's all.
Beautiful.
Those were his last words to my sister before he got admitted into hospital.
That's
Well, lovely.
beautiful.
Yes, his time will be his time. Can't change it. But
Thank you
and
very
your
much.
heart's mourn. So for you guys, I'll just do a little light language, because your heart will mourn. Ananda tukuriyaniyara tatuduriyana na arret ni tukuyana ma ishuruyara nara itapaniyara tutuyanara tiyaniyara kaita uruniri tiyama tukuyana tukuya takuya atkaptikatikatikatikuya tukuyana tukuya tukuya taptuya tukuyana tukuya tukuyana nandik tukuya tatatatukuya na. So a gift for your family.
Thank you very much indeed. I'll let you get on with the rest of the show. Thank you, Wendy.
And I just want to tell you, I will go put some flowers in Ganga tomorrow for him.
Thank you very much. Okay. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
So he'll probably end up watching this later, but usually the way my messages come through with my light language is it comes like big packets, and then I'll get like kind of the gist of it, or sometimes I'll get words of the energy of it. So it's never like an exact word for word, at least not the way that I get it. But it does have to do with kind of that calming, that peace, feeling balanced. So after you know his passing, that they'll kind of just have that sense of peace and love around, and then
Right.
and then the rest of the information will be like memories to come through, like in the days to come. So it'll like repeat.
That's wonderful. Great. Okay. All right.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna let you know that I am gonna go ahead and step out. And then I will see everyone. If you're coming to the class, I will see you at the class. I do need to go so I can
Yeah, we're going to end about 30 minutes early, just to give everyone some downtime before the class, so they can,
Okay.
you know, be ready. But
Perfect.
okay.
Thank you so much.
So have a wonderful class. Thank
Yes.
you, Angie, for being here.
Yes, and I will see you next week.
Okay.
All right. thank
Okay.
you.
So, okay, bye. So Wendy, so before we started, you
Before
were
we
talking
started, yeah, that meditation. Yeah.
Because most of the people that are watching were not there. So can you kind of start it again and tell
Oh
the
yeah.
situation?
Okay. So basically what I was saying is that what's happening to me is during my meditation. So, you're going in, you're connecting, you're, wanting to connect with your higher self, with source, with your guides. So this is how, when I'm meditating, I'm wanting to connect with my team. And then, I'm trying to find that quiet, the calm, and I usually end up falling asleep, honestly. But anyway, so on the last couple of times that I was doing meditations, I was getting like these like images coming through. And so, and I've had that before where sometimes I'll just feel like a pressure in my head, and I'll close my eyes, and then boom, an image will pop up in front of my face, like it's a screen, and I'll see like whatever I see. So in this case, breathing, working on my breathing. I don't know how you guys meditate, but for me, I'll usually like breathe in, I'll hold it, my breath in my heart space, and then I'll breathe out longer and slower, and then hold it out at the end, and then breathe in again, and then hold it on in again in the heart space, and then out. I usually do out through my feet to ground, right? So I have this process, and that's usually where I find my calm. So anyway, so during this time, I've had these little images happen where it looks like I'm looking like off in the distance, people standing on a mountain, and they only look like they're so far away that they only look like they're about 2 inches tall. And then and then I've seen them doing different things. Like one time it seemed like they're kind of like waving me down. And then another time it seemed like they were like working on something. And then this last time, they were kind of like looking up like at a planet, and it kind of looked like the moon. But then it like colored in, like half of it colored in, like I could see color, and then it disappeared. And so whatever this object was like yellow, like kind of a yellow orange. And then I could see like lightning. So they're like shadowed, like it's nighttime. And then this kind of this moon, color of the moon at night was above them. And then it's yellow, it turned yellow. And then I see this lightning coming out of their hands, like they're aiming it at this object. And so I don't know. So anyway, it pops in and then it disappears. And it's only like a few moments.
Is it the same two little beings that you're seeing all the time?
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, it's like the same thing, like off in the distance, the mountain and these little beings. And sometimes it's like one person, like I say people, they look like people, and sometimes they're two. And then I think the last time it was 4 or 5, they were like in a group, and then I could see this lightning. Kind of felt like a Harry Potter moment, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I started to answer you, and I have 2 answers for you. One is, in meditation, because in meditation, it's about connecting to the stillness. And at that time, there is a transitory period where we're going into ourselves, and we're really sort of passing all of the impressions that we're getting, psychic impressions, connection to other beings, all these things. And the goal of meditation is to notice those things, but allow them to go by, and then connect. And so there's the part of me that wants to say, that's great that that's happening, but the real goal in meditation is not to connect to your guides, because that's activity. It's to connect to yourself. Connecting to your guides is also a thing to do.
Right.
But that's the interactive space. So this answer is not going to be what you expect, but I'm going to tell you what I think is happening is because the more you open yourself up and meditate and channel, the more it's kind of like your ability to perceive and see expands and grows. And there's just a whole bunch of stuff to hear, see, experience, and connect to. But your meditation is very important because that is where you get your higher perspective in your stillness. So some of this stuff, even though it's there, you have to have the time for the meditation and not be distracted by that.
Right. Like I said, it comes in, it's like a flash, and then it goes.
So I would say to sort of maybe take a note of it, be like, okay, but now I'm going to meditate, because your clarity comes in your stillness, when you're really still and you're in the presence of the all that is, and you're just there. And so a lot of the things are kind of like the mind wants us, the ego is afraid of death. The ego is afraid that if you really connect to your true self, then the ego it calms the ego, right? The ego doesn't want to be calm. The ego, look at me, I'm over here, chop, chop, chop on the mountain, lightning out of my hand, Harry Potter moments. Because if you're distracted, you're not out of if you're distracted away from your centeredness, then the
Mm-hmm.
ego is getting to do its thing. Now, I would think with you, because you are open and because you are psychic and have all these abilities, that you're definitely connecting to something.
Yeah.
I would say that there's a time for that, and then there's a time for meditation.
Right.
And
Right.
part of the learning and the mastery is to be able to distinguish the two. So, do you have a gatekeeper?
I've seen my gatekeeper once. Well, I shouldn't say
Okay.
once, several times. But when I was first opening and
Sure.
connecting and learning about my abilities, I mean, I
Yeah.
always experienced them from a child. But as I got
Yeah.
older, then my awareness to them and like, okay, let me, like, I thought this thought, let me see if it happens, you know, checking on those syncs and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Or when you get those visions of something's going to happen and then it does, you know, that kind of stuff. So, or intuition, you know, or you say something and then the person goes, oh, I was going to say that, you know, that kind of thing. So connecting into that. So then I started having dreams of the gatekeeper, but I didn't realize, I just thought it was a lion behind a gate, but it wasn't, you know, it was like a Lyran.
So your gatekeeper should kind of, there was a very good psychic. Her name was Lisa. She's a British woman. She had kind of funky hair, and she always would have a time where she was open to perceptions and a time when she wasn't. And she had a gatekeeper. Hers was Archangel Michael. You can be whomever you feel. Archangel Michael's kind of super powerful, right? So that's a good one. A good one. But whomever you feel, you might want to do an actual connection meditation and ask who is your gatekeeper, and then set up some boundaries within your own psyche and within your own spirit, where Wendy's time for meditation is her time to connect, because that's where you get rejuvenated. That's where you get your clarity, and that's where you get your stillness and your peace. That's where you experience oneness. That's where your love for God grows, right, in that meditation. But it's also just in still, because if you are trying to meditate and you've got beings over here and beings over there, this one yelling to you, that one, you don't get to meditation, and they can wait.
Right. I usually end up saying, especially when you start like hearing your thoughts and other thoughts, I'll usually be like, okay, you need to go over there right now, because we're not doing this. This is me meditating. So yeah.
What I teach in my meditation classes is I say, think of everything as like a ball floating down the river. You can notice it, but you have to keep bringing your mind back to your center. It's like if you start to see your mind going after the ball, and then you're like, what color are they? What are they doing? What, you know, and then you're not meditating anymore. So part of it is that I always think that there's always several levels of why we're experiencing something. And I always think part of what we experience that is distracting for us is for us to learn to not be distracted from it. So if you're sitting down in your meditation, that's your sacred time between you and the divine part of you. And that there should be, they say in Hinduism, it's sitting down with your beloved. When you're with your true love, if you're with your true love, you don't want anybody in between that, right?
Yeah.
When you want to be with the one you love the most, you don't want anybody in between. So, and it's the mind and the ego and the beings that don't care about your little meditation, because they know that you're open and perceptive, and they're kind of just like, they want to be seen and experience and connect, but they also have to wait. So I would say you have to have a time for meditation. And then when you notice these things, you can notice them and just say, fine, I notice you, you're there, great. But right now I'm going to go back to my focus and my center. And that's why, like, they say, go back to your breath, return to your breath. If you're doing mantra is a very good way to still the mind so that you stay centered. So whether you're just saying, you could just say, everyone is one. If you want to say something in English, if you want to do Sanskrit mantra, you can say Om. You can just Om just keep oming, so that what it does is it gives it shuts down the thinking mind and allows you to
Right.
focus, so that's one thing that I wanted to say. And then the second thing about these beings, I really feel like you're getting, this is just my instinct, you're getting an
Yes.
insight in like not like another world.
Parallel
And
universe, maybe.
Maybe it's not even parallel, maybe it's another group of beings, and I think that you could connect to them. And I don't know that they're guides for you, but they're either guides for you or beings that you're able to connect through and see into their life. It'd be interesting to know what they're doing, but it seems like they're manipulating energy.
Yeah, they're
right?
definitely working with energy, and I know I work with energy, and I've seen things come out of my fingertips before.
Right.
So that's one of, some people will see
Like
auras
very
and
well be connected to them and be actually in another
in another
incarnation.
realm with them, right?
So you may be one of them, or in
Yeah.
it, or have been one of them. So that's probably why I really don't believe that we really have connections to stuff that's not directly relevant to us.
Yeah, me too. I agree. I kept thinking, I wonder how I'm connected to that. So in other words, I don't think about it during the meditation, but afterwards. So I see the image and then I experience it. And then I think about it. I'm like, oh, okay, that happened. Set it aside, finish my meditation. Throat chakra clearing. And then afterwards, I kind of set it aside. But then, of course, once we get into like a setting like this, then I'm like, oh, yeah, that one time that happened. And then I was like, oh, wait, it happened a few times. And then it all kind of pictures itself back together. And I keep a dream journal, and I keep my notes and stuff that you probably see me with a pen in my hand a lot.
Interesting. Do you see them in shadow? Because I see them
actually,
when I see them in shadow, like silhouettes of them, but not actually them.
Yeah, that's how I
saying.
see them, in shadow. It's like I said, it looked like it was nighttime, like they were gray. And then all of a sudden, like half of it came into color, and then it disappeared out of color again. So, yeah, I don't know. It's something to ponder about, and to do a focused, I think what I need to do is do like a focused, not a meditation, but a connecting, like to connect into that energy, to feel it again, to sense it again, and see what more information I can get. Because I felt like, and I've had this experience before where, so 8 years before 9/11 happened and the two towers, before all of that happened, I was dreaming about the tower falling. And then I was dreaming that I was standing in the window. So that, I think you've had this experience too, of a parallel life, or at the same time, like their life and your life were happening at the same moment. So anyway, I remember being a woman, because I could see
I actually haven't had that experience. No.
Somebody has. I don't know who. Somebody we were talking about, they've had that experience. Okay, so I'm standing in this building, so in one of the towers, looking at the other one going down. Then I'm realizing my tower is going down, and I'm in that moment. And in that moment of realizing my tower is going down, I'm standing at the window looking out. I see my reflection in the window, and I'm thinking, should I? No, not as Wendy, as this blonde woman, some blonde woman, and I can see my office behind me. And I'm thinking for a moment, I should call someone. And then I realized there's no time. And so I just kind of am at peace with myself. And I don't know, maybe a prayer to God or something. Like I have that knowing that this is my time.
Do you believe in congruent lives? I don't even believe necessarily that. I know just that lives don't have, they're not necessarily in order. It's not like,
right. Yes, correct.
Whole discussion with a woman today. I actually gave a reading to a woman here whose
that's what I was trying to say. The congruent life, like they happened and I have, like at the same time, our lives were happening at the same time.
I have a thing of a congruent life, but I don't have a memory of it. I channeled it though, but anyway. But yeah, I think it's a congruent life, and you experience it because there's no time. You experience it now, even in the future, for the future. Did you? I would say to you, I found proof of a congruent life. Like I found proof of a congruent life, and I actually think I'm kind of living out that congruent life what now, some of the same aspects, some of the same things. And she was particularly connected to two other people that I think I'm connected to in this thing anyway. So, but that's a different story. But all the people that died in 9/11, they know who they were in the towers. Have you ever
Yeah.
looked? Have you
Mm-mm.
looked at the pictures of those
No, I
people?
haven't. I've never, I mean, I
I
went
think you
there.
should.
So years later, my husband, my daughter, and I took a trip to New York. And while we were there, we stopped at the fire station that was across the street from where the towers were. The closest one in proximity, where they lost so many. So my, hats off, of course, to, as we've been celebrating veterans, to our firemen as well,
Right.
and all those first responders, but they were in the middle. They hadn't completed the dedication, the park of the memory for them yet. It was all under construction. It was just a big deep hole when we were there. So it was still pretty new. It was pretty hard. I mean, even now it still feels heartbreaking, but at the same time, I think because I had that experience, I feel a real sense of peace about it. And I also have this sense of, like, she felt, I don't know, I don't want to say me with her, but she felt that higher self presence because we were connected at that moment,
Right.
in that knowing. So yeah, there's so much interesting concepts about it, but I mean, think about it. We're such big, powerful beings. We don't understand our own capacity, but I do remember this one vision that I had. So I get a lot of they give me a lot of information, like right in my waking moments.
Mhm.
And I had this vision of these like the stop sign shape. What are those, like octagons? But there were like many, 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 like a football field, like a carpet, like just going on and on and on. And I was like, what am I looking at? And I could see the vibrancy, like some of them were lit up white and some of them were like rainbow color, but I could see like the flow of each one. Like you could see the energy within each one moving. And I said, well, what am I looking at? And then I was connecting with Raziel at the time, which that is my higher self. And so I was connecting with Raziel at the time. And he said, well, those are all my aspects. And so, I mean, it's so expansive. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't put a number to it by any imagination. So I was my own octagon and then everybody else was their own octagon. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like letting me have that more awareness of how expansive, even though I still can't wrap my mind quite around it, but
Mhm. Did you know her name? Her first name?
no. Mm-mm. Nope. I've never tried to connect. I've never really tried to connect back in with that. But of course, I
Right.
had the memory of it because I had that dream so far in advance of it actually happening. And it was, embedded in my mind that it's happening or has happened. And then when it did happen and I was watching it on TV, I was like, oh my God, there it is. Like that's that moment. And what's weird is I was working downtown around, I don't know, several years afterwards. But when I was working downtown, from my window in the building I worked in, I was in the Prudential building and looking out to the Amico building. It's the Aon building now, but at the time it was the Amico building. It is a black and white striped building, very similar to how the two towers were, those black and white striped buildings. And I remember thinking, oh, because I didn't know if it was me or, I mean, I saw her, but I didn't know if it was me or not. You know what I mean? It still felt like it was me. And so when I looked out the window, the first time I sat in my office and looked out the window, I kind of had this like, oh no, like, is it this building that's going down? Like, did I mix up my information and I saw it as somebody else, but it's actually happening to me kind of thing. It was, I don't know. My mind was confused. My mind was trying to, spin its monkey self into understanding.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. I mean, that's really, I would have, yeah, I would be interested to know if you saw a picture, would you recognize the person? When
Oh
she was a
yeah.
blonde woman,
Yeah. She
because
was a
there's
blonde woman.
the people that have passed.
Yeah.
Um,
Probably in her 30s, maybe younger, maybe
yeah,
older. I mean, she can be anywhere from 20 to 35 as far as like how she looked.
right. Yeah,
But also
interesting.
she was in an office and had a window. So, I mean, was everybody running out to their windows or, you know what I mean? So I don't know,
A lot
maybe.
of people were in those windows. Remember, they were standing in the windows.
Yep. Yep. They were standing in the windows because that's the only place they had to go. So.
Yeah, wow. Wow. Interesting. So I just, as far as those beings, I don't know what their name is. I don't get that information. I just see them. I do see them being small, but I think their
Yeah.
world is.
Yeah. I feel like it's like, what's that? Horton Hears a Who, and he's carrying around this world on a, I feel like it's like
Yeah.
that, you know?
Like in what is the movie with Will Smith and the first one, the alien movie, and
Oh,
they see the marble, and inside the marbles, they realize they show
yeah,
it's
yeah,
Earth.
yeah. Men in Black.
Yeah. Men in Black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And they're carrying the world. It's a whole, yeah, it's a whole universe
And
inside.
you said about them being cartoony. You said they were kind of cartoonish, right? I see them as
Yeah, I mean, I see them as people, but
Yeah,
my
like
first time I saw them, it
mythology.
felt, because it was dark and gray and it just, because I couldn't see. And so because they were just like bodies moving in the distance. And I don't know, it just reminded me of like when you're watching a black and white cartoon, just because I had no color to it. So that's why I felt.
I think there's mythology connected to them.
Mm.
I feel like there's mythology connected to them, like they're renowned, like they're, like they are renowned for whatever they do. And I feel like
Maybe
there's,
it was Zeus. Zeus shoots lightning out of his hands. And I have connected in with Zeus most recently, and as
I
a
just feel
past
like
life.
that there would be drawings of them and books of them, and so I feel like there's that kind of mythology around them. That I feel that very clearly, and I feel like even the visual that I have could be a drawing in a book or a painting.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to go scan out paintings,
Yeah.
which I love to do. I love art. There's so much feeling and depth within the artist's soul that gets put onto canvas.
But I almost feel like it would be pre-Egyptian, like pre that kind of, I don't know that it's Earth though, but I would say a kind of Mesopotamian, is that pre-Egyptian? Am I correct in my
I'm the worst at history.
but I feel like it's got that kind of, like I can see if they were drawings, as I get a better feeling of them, it feels like they've got that sort of, if you think about the cave drawings or the wall,
Oh, yeah,
not
yeah.
wall caves, but maybe the drawings on buildings and things, or they feel like they have that sort of feel to them. That's just my feeling.
Yeah. I'll have to draw it out. I end up doing that a lot when I get a really solid visual of something. I'll put it to paper so that I can like look at it.
Okay. All right. So was that it? Was that your question? Because we kind of spent a good bit of time on that.
Yeah, we were just that. Yeah, I really didn't have anything else.
Next time. What time is it?
Oh, it is 10:53.
10:53. Yeah. Let me see. But Wally said maybe it's dwarves. Let me see. Let me see.
No, the body shapes were not disproportionate in that manner.
Remember Wally's saying, can you paint or draw them?
Yeah, I can.
And then,
I'll have to do that. Yeah.
And then I feel on a soul level we know everything. Okay, yes, that's true. Enjoy it. Maybe it was dwarfs, he says.
He gets dwarves.
He's asking, maybe it was. He says both were
Oh,
old.
no, because I've known dwarves in my life, and so they typically have a standard body shape, and these were definitely like standard human shape bodies.
Yeah,
so
I didn't get dwarfs. I didn't get them being dwarfish. Ryan, there's some questions in the chat, but Ryan had a question. Do you want to ask your question, Ryan? You still with us?
Yes, hi. Any positive messages from my highest self? Thank you.
Okay, sure. Do you know the name of your higher self?
He doesn't have a name, but he is a ninth dimensional Andromedan.
Okay, this is the message that I get, and your higher self talks to my higher self, and then I convey the message.
Okay.
That the answers that you're seeking are coming. You're not far away. You're really getting close, solving this mystery. So really, don't be don't be discouraged. You've come really far, and you're really, really close. And so I'm hearing even the waiting is over. So it's time
Okay.
to really rejoice and to get excited about the prospect of clarity, because the clarity is coming, and that yeah, it's like the clarity and the relief that you're seeking
Right.
is
Yes.
coming.
Awesome.
And you're like inches away,
Yeah.
and it will start like a trickle, and it'll just come down. It won't be like a giant crash of a wave, but they'll just be like, I'm feeling better, I'm feeling better, I'm feeling better, I'm feeling great. And also to there's a image of things being put away because they're no longer needed. So whatever you're dealing with, you will have gotten from it whatever.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah, it feels very peaceful.
That's good.
Very
It
peaceful.
sounds like a relief, actually. Considering what's going on, I can't wait for that to be over soon, and I can get relief. And it sounds like a great message.
Yeah, you know your mission, your dharma is your duty. Your dharma as a parent could be just to be a good parent. Your dharma as a wife or husband is to be a good wife or husband. But your part of your dharma will be to help other people.
Awesome.
And so all the stress and strain and heavy lifting that you've been doing, it's not for nothing.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. A beautiful message. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're gonna help people, and I feel like young people, teenagers, that kind of person,
Mhm.
people.
Yeah, everyone keeps
Like-
saying that. Like,
Like a
so I
counselor.
can't wait for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going through something, and then other people,
Well, yes, I am
other
going through
people,
something.
yeah, but I know it's big, but I'm just saying, like, you're only like, I can talk to someone about something, but I have not experienced it. So the depth of my understanding can be pretty deep, but never as much as if it's your own experience. And that's what you'll bring to the table. So you're right now, which is being more of a challenge, will be a superpower later on.
Awesome. That would be great.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be, then it has a purpose then, and use it as an ability. So it sounds like it's a good thing. What I'm going through
Everything
will
has
have
the
a
ability.
purpose.
The other thing, just remember that some people buckle under the pressure and other people rise above. And as
Yeah.
long as you're still, I don't like to use the word fighting, but as long as you're still endeavoring
Positive.
to, huh?
As long as I try to say positive, but
Yeah,
yeah,
stay
sometimes
positive,
they
but
get under.
also being willing to face it head on.
Yeah.
Being willing to endure. That's the word I'm looking for. As long as you're enduring, and in the face of the great, it's like slaying the mighty, no offense to anyone, dragon, or facing the dragon, the mythological dragon, or the great, then there's a drive there. And that drive is not for nothing. Everyone has their own demons to challenge, and it's always an aspect of ourself that has to be integrated in some way. Even if it feels so separate from us, it's still in some way connected to us. So as long as, and once we are able to do that, then we are able to one, move forward with their life, but at the same time, help other people move forward with theirs, you know, so that's true.
Sounds great. Thank you for
So take
tuning into
heart.
that. I appreciate it. Yes,
Take
thank
heart,
you.
I would say.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so
Your
much. I appreciate it.
Andromedan
Beautiful.
higher self has a very King Arthur-ish way of
Yes,
talking.
I was told that he is an awesome energy. Like he looks like a blue angelic looking being, very high dimensional. So
I
he's
saw bluish clothing and a
okay. Yeah,
big.
exactly. There you go. Yeah, bluish
He
clothing.
has
What else? Is
he had a very big head.
okay.
He's got a grayish white head,
Okay.
but bluish kind of sparklyish clothing and very gallant. Yeah,
Interesting.
he's like that. He would be a motivational speaker in another in another
Yes,
galaxy.
he
You
probably
know?
is. He is. Well, he's from Jamaica, so
Yeah, and he's
all right.
very like I'm gonna say like he would say, "Take heart, oh ye warrior," or something like that. He's
Yes,
very
yes, exactly. Like
yeah.
Merlin or something like that. He's very
Kind of
Merlinish.
like that, yeah.
Yeah.
That would I would say that if he were to come to this planet, he would probably be that kind of being.
Yes, I do have Merlin. He comes around as well sometimes to help me. I do have connections to
Okay.
Merlin and wizard
Maybe that's where the King
energy.
Arthur thing was coming from.
It could
Yeah.
be. It could be. It could be Merlin.
But it's always
So
connected, you know? So I
yeah.
mean if that's an aspect if Merlin's coming then you're an aspect of that and that's an aspect of your soul group and then they would all be connected to each other in some way, shape, or form. So
Yes.
Merlin, I mean if you take Merlin out of the earth realm and you put him into another uh, body of another space being or how we just I don't know what you call it, extraterrestrial, but he might be that looking like this guy. 'Cause he's
Yes.
very
Well, he is neat. He's also Saint Germain as well. So he has many different aspects.
Oh, gosh,
Yeah.
yes.
So Merlin, Saint Germain, they're all the same spirit, different aspect. So
cool.
thank you so much. I
No
appreciate
problem.
it.
Yeah, you're
Beautiful.
very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel, you have scholarly questions. I like scholarly questions. What are your scholarly questions? Daniel?
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that.
Okay. What is your scholarly question? I will try to answer it. I may or may not be able to.
Yes, I'm not sure about it.
Okay.
So
Got a pen. I'm ready to go.
let's say nearly a year ago, I asked let's see if I remember. I just call them the water spirits or the planets came out through Gem as a kind of like a singular entity to speak on behalf of the
He channeled
water.
that, right? He channeled that in one of the webinars.
Yes.
I remember. I don't remember what happened, but I do remember that you had in contact and he channeled them. Yeah.
And it was about the low water that's happening in the Colorado River Basin.
Mm-hmm.
It basically said that what's happening, there's an underlying, like an underlying force, a meaning behind it. He said it's too big for your human brain to understand. And even I said in my head, try me. But I just have that kind of scope on the change of weather lately this year. It's not just happening in the West, it's also happening in the east of the United States,
Mm-hmm.
where the rivers feeding the Mississippi River Basin, all of them are having much less rainfall than usual. It's just an odd weather anomaly happening this year. So you and your spiritual gifts, what does your perspective see about the underlying spiritual force that's showing up in the eastern US, driving the force besides the mechanics of solar forcing and magnetic currents.
Okay, well, I have an answer that may or may not be what you're expecting, but my immediate feeling is that, we have to look at the world holistically. And I understand that this is happening in that area, but there's a lot happening all over the world, especially with water. We're losing water in our planet because of global warming, because of pollution, because of all of the things that are happening. And it's not, it's not just this one area, though it's manifest in this area at this point, but it's global. It's a global phenomena, and we really have to work on slowing down climate change, because what's happening is that things are shifting around. Areas that have no water are normally rich with water are drying up. Areas that are used to be coastal are being overrun. And you can't look at it as like what's just happening in this one place, because the fix is not in the one place. The fix, it's like the whole body. You're when the whole body is sick, different parts, you're seeing it happening in this one place, but there's different things happening all other places, and they're all the same sickness. And so we really, as humanity, if we want to make a difference, we have to really get busy with preserving water, not wasting water, not polluting water, not causing more and more loss of water, because global warming is happening, and it happens on a cyclical basis, but it will continue to happen. And this is just more evidence of it. So it's not just the one place, it's the whole. The problem with people is, and not you specifically, but the problem with humanity and most people is they only look at things in relatively to their close proximity, but on a holistic thing. Whole means whole. If we believe in oneness, we realize that there's no place that I end and you begin. There's no place that Earth is okay and not okay. It's one planet, it's one thing, and we have to really look at it from the whole basis. And I would suspect that the reason you're asking is because you're worried about what that's going to do to this area. But I don't want to assume that for you, but it's not just there, it's on a global basis. And the thing that has to be done is we have to, as much as we can individually, but also statewide, countrywide, nationwide, we have to really look at ways to lessen the impact we have on water. I will tell you that I know that by like 2032, you will have literally people that are called water refugees. They have to leave where they are in order to get to water, because water will be gone in many places. By 2050, they're saying then there will not be enough water for whole populations. And so it's a big issue. And it's not just in your area. So that's my answer. I know that probably there's some energetic something happening, but the real reason that this is happening, and as much as like the Earth and global warming, there's no separation between the Earth as a entity as far as like being tangible. There's the Earth, but then there's the spirit of the Earth. It's just like we're body, mind, and spirit as well. The Earth is also. So even though it's happening to the planet, on the spiritual level, we have to take care of it. That's the call. So on a spiritual level, the call is for humanity to make these changes, because if we don't, the Earth will survive as far as like being a rock flying around in space, but humanity, if humanity wants to stay and live on it, we want to have animals living on it and plants living on it and waters and oceans thriving upon it, we have to take care of it. We are stewards of it, and we have to treat it as such. So that's really my answer.
Very well.
So I would say what the next question maybe you would like to consider is, if this is something that is really personal for you and something that you've been thinking about for more than a year, you've had the connection with these water spirits, obviously they have tapped you to be aware of this. The next question would be, how can I help? What can I do? How can I implement change either on a personal, local, or even broader level? And that's what I would say the call is really here, because it's fine to notice something's happening. It's fine to even say, wow, that's really terrible. But then the question after is, what are you going to do about it? Because crying about it, and I'm not saying you are, but crying and feeling bad and thinking, oh, this is so terrible, really doesn't help anybody. It doesn't make it better. And we are, one of our abilities as humans is we have the ability to make choices and take decisions and do action. And spirituality is not about doing nothing. The more aware you become, the more tuned in you are, the more compassionate and the more driven you would probably want to be in order to make a better world. So maybe your mission is to get involved with water preservation and to make some real impact in your area to help these streams and rivers and water bodies that need you.
That's
It
very
could be like the
charming.
oil. It's not charming. I'm being very honest. I don't think it's charming. I think to do nothing is sin, to be honest. I think it's to notice it and do nothing is wrong. I think you have to do something, because why care? Why even care if you don't want to do anything? I'm not saying to you, but I'm just saying in general, it's great to see someone starving in the street and say, oh, it's so sad, and oh, it breaks my heart. Feed the person.
Right.
There's nothing spiritual about watching suffering. What's really spiritual is serving the person and alleviating suffering. And if you're seeing the water suffer and you've been thinking about it for a year, and the spirits of the water have reached out to you, they're asking you for your help. It's not to be charming. Our planet is in peril. So,
Yeah, it's really a great point of discussion too. I actually, it kind of triggered me too, because when he was saying the Mississippi, probably 2 weeks ago, for whatever reason, because the land always calls to me to ask for healing energy and light. And so I do a lot of like earth work in that regard. And also, just walking the neighborhood and picking garbage up off the ground. I mean, it's not a big move, but it's something, right? It's something. But anyway, I ended up like, I was on my computer and I just like followed on the map, like every waterway that went to the Mississippi River. And it literally is across the US, these points of connection to the Mississippi. And I'm just like, oh my God, I had no idea it was way over here and like in these little cities. And so, so I'm doing healing and energy work as I'm trailing the map and following this stream this way and that stream that way and this lake and body of water. It was very interesting. It was, it's
everything. The thing is, everything is connected. We're all connected.
Yeah.
There's no, the one thing you can know, think what you want about COVID, but the one thing that COVID taught us is that when one of us is sick, we're all sick.
Yeah.
No one can be well when someone else is sick. And it's the same thing with the planet. The planet is suffering on one side, but that eventually will rot spreads. You put a nice piece of fruit next to a rotten piece of fruit, what happens? Fruit rots. And we need to accept these pulls that we have towards whatever it is as a calling to enact change, and it's really important. You learn by serving, you learn by giving of yourself. We don't learn so much by just looking and saying, oh, isn't that terrible? It's understand, like, if you want to pick up garbage, organize your neighborhood to pick up garbage. Organize, maybe go a little further, or join a group that's
Yeah.
doing it.
Right.
There's just there's so much that can be done. Fashion, clothing is one of the worst polluters of our water ever. Fashion, the dyeing, the things that happen, and pollution is terrible for our water systems. And when they're gone, they're gone. If the water dies, the fish die. That's the whole food source. There's a lot of people who, live off of the river. They're actually, their well-being, it's from the river. It feeds their crops. If the crops die, there's no food. There's no food, nobody eats. So there's a lot of things that can be done. And it might be letter writing to corporations. Stop dumping your stuff in the ocean. I don't want to buy your things if you're going to be a polluter. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that. Water is water is vital. If there's no water, there's no life. Bottom line. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents on that one. Let me go back to the chat here. And did you have any other questions, Daniel? Other than it's quaint?
No.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Tammy had a question. She says, what would you say are the signs of spirituality in the society? How does one recognize its presence? Well, I think the signs of spirituality, people can be spiritual without being spiritual. People don't have to identify as spiritual and yet be very spiritual people. And citing that I'm this, I'm that, I'm this label, I'm that label doesn't make you spiritual, but it's how you treat your fellow man. Are you inclusive? Do you support? There's the sort of, there's the, what are they called? The seven, what is it? What are they called? The needs, the basic needs. There's the basic human needs of every human being. And, in our society, are we allowing and supporting someone's basic human need, which is a right to a place to live, to be safe, to have food, to have water, to have healthcare, to have education, to have rights? These are the basic needs of humans. And whenever you take any of those away, our society suffers. So in my feeling, a spiritual society be one that looks out for and contributes to the well-being of its people. And if you cannot say you're a Christian and then talk about, hating people or wanting to kill people or thinking Jews are bad. I mean, you cannot say I'm a Christian and I love Jesus. Jesus was a Jew, and you want to eliminate Jews. I mean, these are like logical things, but they're happening in our society right now. A spiritual society is one that says to a woman, you have equal rights. You are equal with a man. You're not a second-class citizen. I'm not going to tell you what you can do with your body. You're also going to not take away food from children. You're not going to exclude people based on who they love or how they feel in their body. Who cares if someone feels like a man in a female body? And who cares if someone feels like a female in a male body? Who cares? If you care, then it's about you, but it's not about spirituality. If you care so much that you want to derive and move people's rights, then that's really about you. But spirituality is about understanding that we are all needing to thrive. And we need to be support each other and to create equality across race, religion, gender. There will always be socioeconomic differences. There will be people that are rich. There will be people that have less. But it doesn't need to be such a rigged kind of thing where denial of rights, because of hate or fear. So, but it doesn't mean because someone says they believe in God, they don't have to believe in God. Everyone is a divine being, whether they believe in God or not. You are a divine being having a human experience, and so you are a spiritual being whether you want to be one or not. But spirituality is really, in society, is about living and walking the things that we say we believe about spirituality. We all talk about oneness, and we all talk about that we're all connected. Well, if we're all connected, that which you do to another person, you're really doing to yourself, or you don't believe in oneness. You either do or you don't. So decide, and then walk your life as if you know that we're one. Why do you cut off your own foot? Why do you do the things to another? Because you're really doing them to yourself. It's the same thing as the planet. When when the planet is sick, we're all sick. So spirituality and society would be really the support of everyone. And I don't mean giving a handout, but maybe a handout is needed. I just mean that you give people a chance, and you don't try to actively keep them from having that chance. And you definitely don't have these leanings of hate and fear that are based on hate and fear. That's my feeling. What do you think, Wendy? What is your thing of what spirituality in a society would look like?
I mean, I agree 100% with what you're saying. You can't, I find it interesting how society as a whole cares deeply for its animals, for the lost dog or kitten on the street, and wanting to make sure it has shelter and care.
That's maybe America. It's not here.
Right.
Okay.
Well, you know where I'm talking about. That's, yeah, definitely it's America. And I'm sure there's other countries as well. But I know it's not there. That's the one place we know it's not. But I do think that happens a lot, where we're like, oh, let's go help this, this poor dog, it hasn't eaten, or this cat that's, I don't see a place for it, and let's like take it to a shelter or something, or let's help, or let's go and give it food every day. But you can have that person standing on the street in that same situation. And I can't tell you how many times I saw that in the city of Chicago, where they'll be somebody saying, hey, can I have something to eat? Can I have something to eat? And hundreds of people will just walk by. And I remember one of the guys had a mantra that he would say, not today, not today, not today, because that's what people were saying to him. And it was heartbreaking. And I can't tell you how many times I would carry food in my backpack. And the part that on occasion was disheartening to me is when they'd say, oh, I'm hungry, I haven't eaten, can you help me out? And I'd say, oh, I have like a kind bar, or a banana, or an orange, or something along those lines. And I'd say, oh, here, here's what I have. And they'd say, no, can I have some money? And I'd be like, are you hungry, or you're not hungry?
Well, I mean, that happens here as well. And there's people that they'll go, feed me, give me food. And then you'll say, well, and here in this place where I am in India, they have what's called a bandara, which is where they feed people. And the ashrams literally go out with big vats of food and different food. And people come with these things that are called tiffins, and they're these layered kind of lunch boxes that have like a bowl and a bowl and a bowl and a bowl. And they fill their tiffins, and that's how they eat. And they do it a couple times a day, and depending on where you are, you could go to several and get food. And then there's people that'll say, give me the thing, and they just want food for money or drugs.
Right.
But, people go, oh, they just want it for drugs, like, and they're offended, but then
Not
that person,
necessarily. They may
You know?
not just have a taste. They've probably had their share of bananas and apples. Thank you very much. They probably would like to go down the street and, order a steak.
maybe that's the case too, or they want drugs, or they want to buy shoes, or they want to, but, if you're saying, give me money for food, then take the money for food. But or take the food
Take the
itself.
food if you're really saying I'm
If they want
hungry.
money, yeah. So maybe their approach is different, but at the same time, there's people, if it's a drug addict, then they need to be in some kind of treatment. And if it's someone who needs clothes, I mean, there's a lot of things that can help people, but mental illness is a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people who are mentally ill, because they do not have the support, they end up homeless, and there's a flaw in that,
Yeah.
because, I mean, it's just the same thing as you can only offer.
But the
You
other
only
thing though,
offer-
too, is that
Yes.
I think it's also hard for us to not judge where people are at, and it's hard. I think it's really hard because you see where you want them, but at the same time, they chose their soul's journey, and their soul's journey might be to be the beggar on the street. I know I had a life where I was a beggar on the street and had nothing.
On some level, yes. On some level, yes, but I don't think that we have this discussion here all the time about that.
That you still have free will. Mm-hmm.
Well, no, not only that, but you as a compassionate being should not assume that that's the case. And
oh yeah, no, you wouldn't go, oh, you have nothing, that's your choice.
Everyone's supposed to be where they are. But if you see suffering, then the goal is to try to alleviate it as much as you can.
Of course.
I mean, some people sometimes people get into a mentality of like, this is what I deserve, and they think they're being punished, and then they walk into that life. And then there's other people who just, can't function. But that's not for us to say. And maybe that is their life, but maybe your thing is to still try. Maybe part of your
well, I think from the aspect of that's what your soul decided to experience, a lot of times it's also the pebble in the pond with the waves. So if that person has this need, then how many people are being affected by this person, and what are their cross experiences with that individual, and how do they get to experience love and assistance and support? And there's so many various aspects of it.
I mean, you can take it further. You can say, if you see someone being beaten in the street,
right,
well, maybe they chose that too, but does that mean you let them get beaten to death?
Right.
Or you stop them. You stop
certainly
them.
If you're able to.
Yeah, if you're able to, you stop it, because they've had the experience of being beaten, yes, but it may not be that it's their thing to die, and maybe your part is to step up. You can take it on that level, and then you can also take it down to a different level, like, because I do a lot of psychic readings, right? So I have people every day, and they seems like they date the same guy over and over. Every guy I date treats me like this, and it's like, because you haven't taken now an action to mitigate it. So of course, the universe in its loving way is giving you every opportunity to implement change in your life. So,
right. It's almost like they have to, instead of, and I even can hear the words, every guy I meet is like this, and you have to recreate those words of every man I meet is like, and then fill in the blank of what you want.
And also maybe not date. If you see a jerk coming at you, don't date him.
Yeah. There's that.
No, honestly, I think that's more.
Oh, I know.
Don't expect a different result if you're going to date the same guy.
Yep.
If you're going to pick the same guy over and over again, how is it ever going to be different?
Right.
never going
Or
to be.
gal.
I mean, just as an example, but
Yes,
the thing,
yes.
like, stop making the same mistakes, start making different choices. And I always think that there's, in some level, there's always the choice of the action that needs to happen. The universe will give you many opportunities, because if you're dating the same guy, if you've gotten to the point where you're going, every guy I date is like this, and it's been more than one or two, right? It's several.
Right. Exactly.
What needs to change? You need to change, not the guys.
Mm-hmm.
You are the one. And that's the same thing in everything. Always,
Yep.
it's us that has to change. We're always the one that have to change. And it's our,
And I think the hard thing on that is that it's easier to look outside the window than to look inside the window. And
Michael
so,
Jackson said, I'm looking at the man in the mirror, whatever.
oh, the man in the mirror. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really is. That's that point where you have to look at yourself and say, how do I need to approach this differently? What are the things that I'm doing that are consistent, that this type of an individual gets brought into my life? How am I looking at myself? How am I viewing myself? Where can I show myself love and respect? You know what I mean? If it's a person who's not giving them respect and love the way that they deserve, then how, maybe I need to respect and love myself first and know that I deserve it. And so when that person is in front of me and I go, oh, the first time that they're not treating me appropriately, I say something to them. If they do it again, that's it. No more. So yeah, but also that has to be that willingness of being self-sufficient and not saying, hey, I have to be in this relationship no matter, whether it's this person or that person, and finding that connection where you're mutually respecting one another.
Sure.
And in the moments of disrespect, being able to acknowledge and apologize for, whether it's them that needs to apologize or you that needs to apologize for your actions, have that open communication to discuss it. In the case of a long-term relationship like marriage, like what I'm in, it's hard work. It's not an easy, just like, oh, it's not always just, hugs and kisses and, candy and roses. There's the hard moments too, of difference of opinion. And
pulling it back, I don't want to go down that road too much, but I want to pull to the homeless person. When you see someone homeless, it's very confronting, because it could be you, and the people think it can never happen to them, but they don't want to look at the person who maybe they knew in some other time that wasn't homeless, that didn't, and there's a thing in America, especially, of like, if you're homeless, you failed in some way. Nothing that you failed. In America is all about, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you live your life. And so to see someone homeless, you're saying, well, you should have done better. You should have, you should have worked harder. But it's not always about that. It's not always about that. And so there's this thing of like saying, well, why should I, it's just the same people who say, why should I pay for you? Why should my taxes go to you when you're not working, when you're not doing anything? And that's, in some ways that's understandable. In other ways, it's not helpful. It's not helpful for that person. It's not helping them. It actually costs more for someone to be homeless than to not be homeless. On the scale of what it costs society, putting them in and out of jail, and lawyers and all these things. I mean, there's just a level of being okay with suffering, being okay with someone else suffering, and it's really not spiritual. It's not that spiritual to have that, and to not judge the person, but to say, what is it that this person really needs in this moment?
Yeah.
Maybe they need the apple.
That's a long response to that question. Yeah, we could go on for hours.
I think if we just understand that everyone, I mean, I'll give you an example. What I was saying about, there's feeding of people, and then there's people that want money for drugs and stuff. And then it's easy to say, oh, you're just a drug addict. But if someone who's a drug addict is sick.
Right.
They're sick. They have a disease. It's not because if they could stop taking drugs, they would stop taking drugs. You know, if they're, so what's going on with them? You know, most people who are taking drugs are self-medicating in some way. Why? Were they traumatized? Were they abused? Usually that's
Right.
the case.
That's usually the
So-
case. Mhm.
So you've had a person, you know, in the case of a girl who's a drug addict, she's probably been raped a bunch of times. She's been molested. She's been beaten down for her whole life. And the one time she took drugs, the one time she ever felt better in her whole life. So, you know, it's not about feeling sorry. It's about saying
Yes.
that the person is more than just that. And we need to start seeing these people and seeing them as human beings who are lost in some way, shape, or form. And what can we do for them in some way? Even if it's just saying, I hope everything gets better for you. You know, that's good. I lost Wendy. She started turning around. Let me go see. There's another question.
Yeah, sorry. That was my dog started barking. There he goes.
It's okay. He says, and I heard girl in universe. I guess that's a username of somebody, said the grand solar flash will happen until the end of 2022. Is that true? It will happen until the end or by the end? Do you know anything about that, Wendy? The grand solar flash?
No, I haven't heard about that, but there has been solar flash, but it's not really affecting Earth the way like you would think, oh, like magnetically.
Okay, I don't know anything about a grand solar flash. I don't even know what that would mean or what it's supposed to do. So I can't really answer the question.
I can.
Okay, Daniel, go ahead. Great.
Uh, so the big solar flash thing, basically, to sum it up, it's called a micronova of the sun.
Okay.
It basically just kind of like popped it outer shell over the solar system, fed by the core of the galaxy. And it does these cycles every, I think they said like a couple 100,000 years.
Okay.
And the big thing that's going on, it's been pouring in from different sources for the last 10 years or so, ever since 2012, really. As it prepare for big solar flash, prepare to send, but that's just a bunch of fluff. I could say, you hear people talk about different dates and stuff. No one really knows.
So, but what is the result of this solar flash? What happens when this thing pops?
Well, magnetically, it's like the biggest EMP you'll ever see. Everything we have that works electronically goes out like a light.
Yeah, I've been
and-
hearing that since the 70s. I'll be real honest. I mean, I was a little kid, but there was rumors of that in
Right.
the 70s.
The other part is it also messes with your head. You're depending on where you are mentally and spiritually, it would either make you feel really good or make you feel really terrible
Okay.
because of the way it'll affect your what they call your biofield and your magnetic field around your body.
See, and don't get me wrong, I hear these kind of predictions come around every few years. And I'm not saying that they wouldn't or couldn't happen, but I don't know what the point of the prediction is. Is it to get people excited about the prospect of it happening in a good way, or to get people upset about the fact that this is coming and it's something to fear and have foreboding for? I mean, when I have a channeling that I've pull out every once in a while to read it. And it was done in 1989. Talked about California falling into the ocean, and it would have happened by now. It was going to be in the next 10 years and all these things. And you read all these things and it's like, you know, I don't know. If there's a solar flash, I guess we'll know when it happens. But I don't know what the outcome would be. I mean, I feel good and feel bad on a daily basis. And I also, I just don't think that there's going to be such an event that all electronics everywhere would fail. It just doesn't make any sense. But it would have to be so big. I don't know.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
things to me, there seem to be very nonsensical, and I feel like, I mean, if it happens, okay, I'm happy to be wrong, but I wouldn't be able to tell you, obviously, because the internet would be down and we would never be able to talk. So, just, accept my apology in advance. But I mean, the likelihood of stuff like that, stuff like that, I think it's almost like useless information. What does it mean? I don't know what it means. It's like when someone gets up and says on the internet, "Are you feeling the energies?" And it's like, what energies? Give more information. And of course, people are like, "Oh yes, I'm feeling the energies." Well, okay. I don't know. That to me is just frou-frou stuff. And I'm sure it's actually a possibility on
Actually, it's interesting that you say that, because I agree that a lot of people cannot feel energy. And I am one of those people who can really feel energy. And so, so sometimes I'm like, yeah, I feel the energy. Like it feels sometimes, I don't know if you've ever had vertigo, but
yeah, I just had it the other day, and I swear,
then you'll understand this. So a lot of times when I have like quantum energy, when I'm feeling the energies, that sensation of that dizziness, kind of feeling nauseous, like you're like moving and not moving, that's what it feels like.
yeah, but that's different than when someone places on the internet and someone's like, "Yeah, I'm just having a bad day because of these energies," and I think, okay,
Oh yeah, that's different for
you're
sure.
having a bad day because you're having a bad day, and I think that a lot of stuff we don't take enough responsibility for our role in it.
Yeah, that's
You know what I
fine.
mean? Like so much of the outside world. Now, I will say the other night after the election, I had vertigo, and the only couple times I've really had vertigo is when I've jumped timelines, and I said to myself, I
Yep,
wonder if
timeline jump. I experienced a timeline jump the other
recently.
day.
In the last couple days?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I just
I
and I
have it in my
vertigo.
notes.
When was it? See if it, because for me it was like the middle of the night. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning,
For me,
and that
it was during the day, but it was a few days
time.
before the 11th. It was on the 8th. Was that the election day? No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was on the
Okay.
8th.
So what
Yeah,
time
it
was
was on the 8th.
For
What time
me,
was it?
it was around 10:30, 11 o'clock maybe. I don't know that I noted the time, but
Okay, for me
but
it was like 1
I texted somebody that I felt the timeline jump. And the way I described it was that being awake when it happened it was like I went into like almost like like you're getting ready to fall asleep at your desk, kind of like it felt like that for half a second. And then it's almost like if you can imagine like when you put your TV on pause and how it kind of glitches to a stop. And then when you push play, it kind of glitches forward. And then it was like that. That's how it felt. It was like all of a sudden I'm like,
vertigo experience, so much so because it was 1 in the morning and I was laying in my bed and I felt myself start to spin.
And the quantum, of course, was there, which was putting me kind of into
I
that.
turned on my side because if I lay on my back, it's too much. So I turned on my side and I said, I think we're jumping timelines. That's what I said.
It was timeline.
For me, it was 1 in the morning. So what time is it for you? Are you Eastern Standard?
I'm Central Standard Time.
So are you an hour earlier than Eastern?
Like, I mean, right now it's almost noon. It's 11:43.
Okay, so for me at 1.
What's our hour difference? Like
it would have been 12:30. It would have been 11:30 your time. 11 between
that
11,
sounds about right.
And then for me 1 a.m.
I texted somebody. I'll have to see like what time I texted them at to describe that experience.
Okay, definitely see, because for me it
I'll
was
have to
about
see. Yeah, I'll have to see if I like have a time.
And I really had a vertigo, and I was like every time I've ever had time that I can identify timeline shift, I've had a vertigo experience because I don't have vertigo. I mean, other than I've had the vertigo experience, but it's always been a timeline shift with the information. So you had it too.
That's how I remember it. It's almost like I could feel that quantum energy, which kind of, it just feels like it's around you, like you could feel the air, right? And so I felt that, and then I felt kind of sleepy, and then I felt like I blinked, and then I opened my eyes, and then instead of being here, I was like moved a bit. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I was like not in my same spot. And so I was like, oh, what just happened? And then I like was just like, oh, that was you just had a timeline jump. It just like popped in my head like that. So I was like, okay.
And I was laying on my back, and I felt myself start to move, and then I immediately went on my left side. First I went on my right side, and it started to get worse. So then I flipped over to my left side and held on like I was holding on.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see what time it was, because it was sometime after.
Yeah, and you know what else? What else just happened to me? What was this?
You know what I said to myself? Can I tell you? I said, because I was sleeping right here, and I was laying like this, and I must have just jumped timelines, and I was like, I wonder if it's going to be a more positive one this time. That's what I said. That's what I said out loud.
I said the same thing. I said, I think we moved to the, I said, I think we moved, I said it the differently though. I said, I think we moved to a better timeline. Like, I feel like collectively we decided to move to a better timeline.
I think so too. I think if you look at the election, I think people chose, no matter whether you voted Republican or Democrat, people chose less extreme people. Let's just say it like that.
More conscientiously about their choices. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that I think we're fatigued.
Yes.
We're fatigued of it. We've had enough extreme.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't know if this was also on the 8th. I have to like check my dream notes. But I woke up. So before I used to wake up, I felt energy. So it felt like I call it effervescent bubbles inside the skin. So I'd feel it shaking like this, but I wouldn't shake. It would be calm. And then maybe a month or so ago, right after we came back from Shasta, I was waking up with like my whole body, like literally shaking, and I would observe it. Okay, so that happened, right? And now a couple days ago, when I woke up, only my head was shaking. It was the weirdest thing. And I was like, what is happening to my head? Because usually it's whole body whenever I would experience like your whole body shaking. And it was like this earthquake happening. Just my head was like, like vibrating. I don't know. It's the weirdest thing. So I was going to ask you if you would like be able to tap into like what that was. I mean, obviously it's energy, but.
The only thing I feel is like it just sometimes it happens in different ways, and just I would just say, like, if you can, now that that's happened, kind of separate yourself from the energy and ask it what it means. Does that make sense? Like, what is it? Why was it there? I just feel like it happens in different ways. I
don't know why it was there. I kind of feel like it was to like open all the crown channels, like I think when you're working with psychic or medium or intuition, telepathy or any of that stuff, right? Or any of your clairs, I think you've got like certain points in your crown that you use, but not necessarily all of them. And I think it was related to that. I think it was like an energetic charge or something to.
Yeah, the other information I got too is just like sometimes, just like the chakras are different energy centers correlating to different, things, like whether it's core energy or grounding.
Oh, yeah.
This was really more of a mental psychic energy, and it wasn't these other energies that you were dealing with. That's why it was concentrated just here. It was specific kind of energy, or else you might have been feeling it in your solar plexus.
That's really interesting. I really like that. I think that's spot on, because I remember when I was experiencing Kundalini energy and I could feel it like literally snaking up and down my spine. It was very cool. It was last summer. So it was very cool, because you just be sitting at your desk and all of a sudden, and I kind of want to like look at your back and be like, is there somebody like putting something on my back, moving it up and down my spine? So yeah, that was
So, but
interesting.
I wanted to go back to Daniel and ask him, Daniel,
Oh,
do you have
yeah.
do you have an opinion about the corona mass ejections as far as on a spiritual level? Do you have any feeling about if do you think it's more spiritual? Or do you think it's more, and I don't like to separate spiritual because I gave that whole speech about everything's, everything's all, but
Yeah,
I
you
feel
did.
like well, but at the same time, is it more of just a phenomena, or is there some sort of
It's what you just said, phenomenon. There's no, at my standpoint, there is no control mechanism really. The sun, as it is, sometimes I could say has a mind of its own, but it just, yeah, phenomenon, yes. If there's an underlying mechanism, it's outside of my understanding at the moment.
So in the Carrington event, was there I mean, at that point in the 1800s, there was definitely not the level of electronic technology that we have now.
Right, they had telegraph wires.
And
The
did they burn
Carrington
up?
event, the wires got very hot because they were the electromagnetic field in the atmosphere from the magnetic shield penetrate down to the crust of the earth, and anything with capable of the telegraph wires started to conduct that magnetic energy, started to get very hot, and at the ends where you have your telegraph boxes, they would explode, or as the story goes, be engulfed in flames because the end can't grant all that sudden electric current, and would just spontaneously catch fire.
Right.
So
I
that
believe
was
that was all
that
over
was
the
blamed.
world, right? That was happened
Yes,
for every year at the same time.
yes,
Yeah. So, the thing is that could happen. I mean, if we had some kind of massive event and we're so much more electronically wired now, right? So, but I don't know that it would be, I guess the question would be, how long would it take for systems to recover? And you have to imagine, just like earthquake, building a building for an earthquake or building a building for a hurricane, that those kind of considerations have had to go maybe into infrastructure as they build more modern buildings. I mean, surge protectors are there. I mean, I don't know if they can handle a mass coronal ejection, but there are, but maybe on our bigger electrical systems, there are these kind of surge protectors. I don't know.
there are, because the solar wind goes up and down, as you know. So the astronomers keep track of that daily, and they feed that information to the power companies, and the power companies will kick up or kick down the amount of voltage going through some of the high voltage power lines to account for that intake of magnetic energy.
So
There
then,
are
in
many
your opinion, yeah. Oh, sorry.
There are many redundant systems built into the power grids around the planet that, in the event of such a sudden surge, many power lines will break and ground that sudden surge of energy, and then just break lines to cut off the different areas, basically to protect itself until the event passes. Then re-engagement.
I didn't realize it's almost 1:00, so we have to go.
Yes, it's 12:53 here, Eastern Standard Time.
So,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was just
Okay, I found the date and time that I sent that message. It was on.
okay.
It was on
Just one second.
Thursday.
Wait.
Oh.
Daniel, that's really interesting. And my comment was going to be, so basically the idea that all electrical systems everywhere on the planet would get knocked out is probably not as probable as it would have been had those fail safes not be put into place. Is that what you would say?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So sorry, go ahead, Wendy.
Oh,
What was
yeah.
your-
Okay. So just real quick, it was at, I sent the message at 12:15 asking if anyone else felt the timeline jump. And then it was on the 10th. So 11/10/22.
Okay.
So it could have
Okay.
been 11:30 because I felt it. And then when I had a minute, I sent that message asking.
Because if the way that I have to calculate the time now here is that you all are, I add an hour and a half to my time, and then
Okay.
I release it. So for you right now, it's probably 12, almost 12:31. That's Eastern Standard. So for you would be 12. And
Yeah,
if
it's
you-
almost 12 right now. Yes.
Okay, and for me it was 1. Right. Perfect. Okay, so do a quick blessing because we got to go.
Okay, you got it.
Sorry, the reason we
Finding our
have to go
synchronicities.
class starting in this Zoom room, and they're probably trying to start the meeting. And
Onyara kanyara koenyara kanara hoenyara kayen oro koenara taira tonya kahera tornara taira koera paia tahuanyara ne nyonyo nyara nyaka oro noro nyara na aranyara toyenyara nara tatakiruyana paio. Blessings.
wonder if
It's a
I
little
jumped to
different.
time before you. I think maybe before you. I don't know. I think it might for me have been on the 9th, but it would have, no, I don't know if it was the 8th or 9th now. I just know it was the other way. But I think it has to be the same time because I hope we jumped all together. I think
I
we'll
hope so
plan
too.
it. Right, everyone, much love to you. We're going out of the room because they have a class coming in like
Yes.
4 minutes. So enjoy
All
your
right.
class.
Blessings
And
to all of you.
Jim. All right, bye everybody.
All right,
Thank
bye-bye.
you, Diana. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Hi, Diane. Okay.